Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Geo Series. I am Matthew Shelnut from EUSI, and I'll be your host today. And I'm excited about today's topic. We're going to be talking about Maxar's MGP Pro, what we're sort of calling the next generation of SecureWatch, which was already a very powerful platform for streaming and downloading Maxar geospatial products. So I'm joined today by Bhavini Karadia with Maxar and Benjamin Liebeknecht with EUSI. European Space Imaging, EUSI, is the point of contact for all users in Europe and North Africa who are interested in MGP Pro or in Maxar satellite imagery or geospatial products in general. And we're going to go over today some of the differences between SecureWatch and MGP Pro, what's happening with SecureWatch, and Bhavini will do a live demo for us as well. And then at the end, we'll spend a few minutes doing a live Q&A. We'll get to ask Bhavini and Benjamin some questions. So I welcome questions from the audience that I'll be able to read out to them. That being said, you'll notice on the sidebar in the webinar platform here, you have a chat box and a Q&A box and some other icons too. Today, we'll really just be using the chat and Q&A. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A section. We do also have a couple moderators here on the back end that will help answer some of the questions, because if we get a lot, dozens of them, we can't get to them all in the live session, and some of them are maybe answered with a quick text response as well. But please make sure to put those in the Q&A section so we actually see them and can mark them as answered and sort of organize them for the live Q&A as well. Otherwise, if you would like to see full screen at any point, just a little tip that you can close the chat window or that sidebar and then enter full screen mode. So especially maybe during the demo, it might be helpful to have that full screen mode so you can really see everything that we're doing. So I believe that's all, and we can go ahead and get started. I will go ahead and toss it over to Benjamin, and he'll give you a little presentation and introduction.
Yes, thank you. I will quickly share my screen. So I hope you can all see my screen. Hello also from my side. Welcome to our webinar from SecureWatch to MGP Pro. As Matthew already said, I will guide you through some of the advantages and new features from MGP Pro, and after that, Bhavini will take over for a short pricing intro and stuff, and also the live demo. So Maxar Geospatial Platform, MGP, what is it? Actually, it's a way of fast and easy access to very high resolution imagery, imagery base maps like Vivid, and analysis-ready data and analytics. So I will then show you what this is all about again. So MGP Pro is like SecureWatch, a cloud-based service where Maxar images are available. This is just in one sentence, but there's of course more behind it. So you have then access, if you subscribe, to the highest commercial available resolution, archive, and tasking in future. So every day there are 3 million square kilometers of new collected images, and they will be available just a few hours after collection. You also have access to 20 years plus of archive. This is already around 125 petabyte of imagery, which also have a complete global coverage, of course. So there are some new features at MGP Pro and some improvements over SecureWatch. These are basically I will just name them and then get into detail on the following slides. So the advantages are it has improved access, new content is available also, new capabilities, and most important, transparent consumption and pricing. This was one of the Main disadvantages of SecureWatch, what we heard from our partners and resellers and end users. So Bhavini will get into detail on this. There are some important dates in the past, like February 2024. MGP Pro reached the parity with SecureWatch on 31st of March 2024. This was the last day of new subscriptions allowed on on SecureWatch. 30th of April, some days ago, there was the last day for renewal for SecureWatch, and on the 31st of December 2025, there's the last day of access to the SecureWatch platform, and then only MGP Pro is available. So I already mentioned the improved access. So the improved access is caused by a new web interface. It's some kind of similar but improved over the SecureWatch one. It has an improved API with additional content and functionality Bhavini will show later on. And it has an admin user panel where you can manage all your users of your organization and also assign them amount of credits and play around with it. So you have a full overview as an admin in MGP Pro. Like I said, it also has new content. Vivid is implemented in 30 centimeter now. It has persistent change monitoring with scientific aperture radar, and precision 3D will be implemented in future there as well. So you can enable precision 3D and see the content in 3D then. So last but not least, I already mentioned the new capabilities. These are HD, so you can order and stream the images if you enable it in HD, which is the HD 30 or the HD 15 centimeter. And the future capabilities will be also that you have access to basic new collections. They will be implemented in the platform. You can select your AOI and ask for tasking. Then you won't get a feasibility, but Bhavini will, I think, tell you a bit more about it. But you will get new collections in MGP Pro platform in future. So this table is just to summarize. I won't go through every line, but as you can see here, SecureWatch on the left in gray, MGP Pro in orange on the right. The API has 9 new features in MGP Pro over SecureWatch, and there are 5 new features in the user interface over SecureWatch in MGP Pro. I think this was enough talking. So Bhavini will take over now for the live demo and show some other things like the credit system behind. And yeah, I will stop sharing my screen now and Bhavini can take over.
Brilliant. Thank you for the great overview there, Benjamin. So let me also share my screen very quickly. So Benjamin gave a really, while my slides are just loading up, Benjamin gave a great overview of the platform, where we're taking SecureWatch and taking all that capability and building upon it in MGP Pro, the next generation of SecureWatch. One of the things we should definitely discuss is the way we intend on metering data in the new platform. So with SecureWatch, we use the concept of gigabytes. Customers bought gigabytes, and that's the unit of measurement of how users were consuming data. Transitioning away from that, in our next generation of SecureWatch, we're going to use a new form of currency called credits. So how much does a credit cost? A single credit equates to $1. So you can buy a credit for $1, but the purchasing power of that credit differs depending on the number of credits you're purchasing. So for example, if you're in tier 1 and we go from tier 1 through to tier 5, you're typically going to find a credit can consume a considerable amount of data, but a single credit can take you further if you're in tier 2 or tier 3. So the distinguishment between the tiers is depending on how much you're intending to purchase. And typically we see customers purchase on an annual basis or a multi-year contract. So it can be a little bit confusing we've become so accustomed to this concept of gigabytes, and we're moving to credits. It can be a bit tricky to get your head around, but the platform is really good at user education and being very transparent with how much everything costs. In SecureWatch, you would place orders and then find out how many megabytes or gigabytes it would cost after you'd place the order. And we want to be really transparent so that users are really conscious of how many credits everything is costing. I'm going to show this in the platform. I think it speaks very well to itself. Another thing to note is as we're transitioning from SecureWatch to a brand new platform, we still honor the 20% rollover rule. So if you had 10 gigabytes purchased, for example, and you'd only used 8 of them, you could then roll over those 2 gigabytes. But as we transition from gigabytes to credits, it can be a bit tricky. Everything in life is tricky. But what we would do is we'd figure out the US dollar value of those 2 remaining credits from this example, and we'd calculate how many credits that would get you. And those credits can be used in your new purchase in MGP Pro. So we don't ever want users to feel like they're losing out by moving from SecureWatch to MGP Pro. How many credits should a customer buy, or how long is a piece of string, is one of the questions I get asked most. And it can be tricky, but one way we can kind of overcome this hurdle is by doing an MGP Pro evaluation or a test account. And over that 30 or 30-day period, or perhaps 2-week period, we can look at how much data you're consuming and kind of make a good prediction of how much data you should be purchasing to last you a year. And I typically recommend you add a little bit of wiggle room because you never know what's going to come through, and you might just need a little bit of extra credits. If you're an existing end user, one thing we can do is we can look at your year-on-year usage, and we can run certain reports and do a little bit of analysis and come to you with a really nice recommendation of how to proceed and transition customers over. So there's a lot of information I'm kind of throwing at you about the transition process, and it's going to be a bit tricky, but we only have to do it once as we migrate end users from a SecureWatch to MGP Pro. And most importantly, the team at EUSI are here to help. We're not going to let you go through this alone. We are here to help, to answer questions. Should you need any help with pulling reports and data, we're definitely there. So I think with all that speaking, I will stop sharing and reshare so that we can have a little look at the platform. We can walk through a live demo because that's the most exciting part. So if I share my screen one more time, and I specifically want to share this one. I hope you guys can see my screen okay. I'll just move you over here. So I've already kind of logged into the platform, so I will just refresh and show you the home page. When the page first loads up, we are looking over Madrid here, and you can see that the look and feel is very similar to how it looks in SecureWatch today. We have the carousel on the left. That's my personal preference. You can put it up, down, right, left, but the concept of the carousel is still around. In the bottom left-hand corner here, you can still see that the zoom level concept applies. We still have the ability to change the longitude and latitude format. And we also have a little snapshot in the bottom right-hand corner here, showing you where in the world you are. In the top left over here, we have the search bar. So I've just gone ahead and searched for Madrid, but you can search for anywhere in the world. So I think the most appropriate place to be would be Munich. You can definitely always upload an AOI if that's your preference. And one of the great features of MGP Pro is you can save areas in the platform. So maybe Munich is a bit cloudy for us, so Barcelona might do us. We need somewhere sunny in these dreary British days. So if I zoom into kind of the city of Barcelona, we can see on the left my carousel refreshes every time I'm panning and zooming, searching for new places. And this is because it's pinging our factory and notifying them to refresh the content we're viewing in the viewport here. So in SecureWatch, we had divided imagery into a few different buckets. We had the online imagery bucket, the archive imagery bucket, and we housed our base maps as well. So our online imagery is what I would typically call the best of the best. It's often the most freshest with the tightest ONA and the least cloud cover. And all of this imagery is housed online at a full resolution. So if I zoom into some of these buildings a little bit more, traditionally when we achieve around zoom level 17 or 18 is where we are then looking at the full resolution image, depending on the resolution of the collect itself. But that doesn't mean that imagery that falls outside of this, what I call best of the best definition, is just discarded and we don't care for it. We keep all the collects that we make at Maxar, but we house them in a different bucket called the archive imagery. So if I just let this load up, you're going to see a stark, I think there might be a bug in my account, but typically, just like in SecureWatch, you should be able to see the stark contrast in resolution. So we should be looking at around 16-meter browse data. And should we be interested in this second collect here, a nice Worldview 3 from the middle of April at 1% cloud cover, which is virtually cloud-free, we can always order the image. And what this is going to do is it's going to ping our factory, and we're going to prepare the image so you can stream it in the platform at a full resolution. So as I want to stream the image to view it in SecureWatch, in MGP, sorry, we configure kind of all the order parameters. I think an ortho-ready 3-band pan sharpen is a good start. And it's kind of shouting at me in this bold red text that I have conflicting parameters. So in SecureWatch, we never indicated very boldly when parameters were conflicting with one another, but we do in MGP Pro because user education is very important to us. So I'm going to adjust my resampling kernel here. And this price section, or almost like a calculator, is super important to take note of. It's 0 credits in this case because I'm just requesting for the image to be brought online so I can stream it at a full resolution. But if this was an archive order, it would very transparently tell me how many credits this is going to cost me. So I'm going to request it for the viewport, and it seems my area is too small, so it's always great for telling me what mistakes I'm making. I'm going to redefine my area so it's a little bit bigger. It might take a second to calculate the price, but as I mentioned, we're just requesting this imagery to come online, and that's completely unmetered place order. So this will typically take around 20 or 30 minutes for the image to come online and be streamed at a full resolution, and that's a lot. We're definitely reducing the timeline here relative to SecureWatch in the process of requesting images to come online. And it's the same with archive ordering. Typically, we would be looking at kind of several hours, if not a day, for things to turn around. And in MGP, we're seeing the timelines become a lot shorter. So if I went back to my online imagery bucket, for example, and if I was interested in placing an offline order for the area we're viewing here in Barcelona, super simple as well. I simply want to order the image, but this time I want to take it out of the platform. So we have a few different options here in terms of delivery. We have our very traditional FTP, but moving forward, we will definitely support delivery onto your S3 bucket if you have one. There's a little bit of configuration that needs to be done there, but we have some great user documentation that walks you through those steps so that your AWS bucket accepts deliveries we're trying to push onto it. So So I'm going to use the viewport for this order. And you can see that if I was placing this online order, it would cost me $7 credits and 7.78 credits. Tripping over my words there. So that's the crux of online and archive imagery and how to order it as well. One of the really nice features we also have is exploit. We had great feedback from exploit, but an area of improvement we found was making exploit really clear and accessible. So when we navigate to the archive imagery, we have all of these small blue triangles, and they're on a few images. And what this indicates is when a customer is able to exploit an image on the fly. So we just wait for the image to load in, tile by tile. We also have the exploit preset options, just like we did in SecureWatch. So if I want to see all the vegetation really pop out and rearrange the bands, we can do so. One of the great things is we can also apply HD on demand. This is powered by our lovely raster analytics API. And if I was to click that, and it's telling me that I'm not zoomed in enough, so I'll zoom in one zoom level higher. And if I applied HD to this image, it will take a 50 centimeter native collect down to 30 centimeter HD, and it will take a 30 centimeter collect down to 15 centimeter HD. I'm going to hit apply. And it will take a second because we're doing it on demand. But relative to the previous version of the image we were looking at, we can definitely see things like buildings are looking sharper, as well as these vehicles, these road markings look a lot sharper as well. So it's a great function to have at your fingertips. One really important thing to note is in SecureWatch, exploit mode was unmetered. Moving forward in MGP Pro, it is something that will be metered. So it's just something to keep in mind should you use the feature a lot. If you were using it a lot in SecureWatch, but then you're coming into MGP Pro, you are going to be metered to use this functionality. I will continue out of exploit. We'll have a little look at our Vivid, I think. So Benjamin kind of touched on this already, but we also have all of the various flavors of our Vivid base map in the platform. So our basic is 50 centimeter HD, and we move up the value added chain. And if you're not sure what all the product specs of Vivid are, we have this small eye icon, and it's going to tell you the resolution, kind of the coverage, the refresh, as well as the accuracy. And as we move up the Vivid value chain, we traditionally improve the GSD, so the resolution of the imagery, as well as the accuracy. Cool. One of the big asks we've always had in our platform in terms of Vivid is being able to see the cut lines or the seam lines of the data. So if I zoom out over Barcelona a little bit more, what we should be able to see are some blue lines. Got to zoom out a little more. And I'll move to the left a little. So these blue lines frame the catalog IDs that compose this base map, so that almost the patches that make up the patchwork quilt. And what we can do is we can review the vintage. So this specific catalog ID, for example, was collected from the 8th of September 2023. And it was a WorldView 3 collect as well. So Vivid is great. The best part about Vivid in MGP Pro is we now have access to Vivid Premium built out over typically urban or metropolitan areas. And if I zoom in a little bit more, and if I click this I button so we can review the parameters, we're looking at a 15 centimeter HD product at a 2 meter CE90. So this is taking native 30 centimeter imagery and applying our proprietary algorithm and sharpening up the data. So I will turn Vivid off and I will zoom out to the world. One of the needle mover functionalities that we have here in MGP is the ability to review our Precision 3D data set that we've built out, as well as order data offline. And if I toggle down a little bit, we can review the coverage over Western and Central Europe. And we've got a decent portion of the world built out so far. But at Maxar, the goal here is to build out the entire world in 3D. And we also, so when I say you can take the data out of the platform, this would be placing an offline order. And traditionally, we see orders for 1,000 square kilometers or more offline, but via MGP, we're reducing that barrier to entry, and it's only 100 square kilometers. I think we're good on time. We're halfway through. So this areas button here becomes a consolidation of their bookmarks and alerts function in SecureWatch today. So we can review perhaps some imagery over London. So I've got this bookmark here over Oxford Street in central London. And perhaps I'm interested in reviewing data every single collect. Let me just go over here to the online imagery and go back to my areas. So this is the area that I'm interested in all the time, and I've saved it in the platform, as we can now save areas in MGP. But say I wanted to be notified for every single collect over this area. What we would then do is set up a monitor. So I've got an Oxford Street test here. I'll delete it and I'll create a new one. So to create a monitor is super simple. What we want to do is click on this small bell icon, and I want to give it a name. So we'll call it Oxford Street Test. We define the period of time that we'd like to be notified. So I'll just put the month of June. You can call out specific sensors. So if we were only looking for multi-spectral imagery, we'd go for everything apart from WildView 1. And say I'm not too bothered on cloud cover, so just show me everything. Off nadir, I'm not too fussy as well. And then what you would do is you would type in your email address, and I would create a monitor. And this will email me every time a new image is collected, and it's a good prompt to get you in the platform to review imagery that could be of use to you, but you don't have to go in every day. Okay, so I will go. And Benjamin kind of talked about this as well, but we also have a new tasking feature in MGP. So in areas that we would call low demand, the minimum order quantity is 50 square kilometers, whereas it's 100 square kilometers in high demand countries. You would kind of go through just like the typical ordering process of MGP for archival imagery, for example, where you'd configure your parameters, but in this case, in addition, you would talk about the start and end collect date and tasking specific parameters like cloud cover and ONA. So I talked a lot in my slides about usage and transparency. So here we're looking at the usage tab, which is showing me my live usage. And if I just toggle it to day, you can see I pretty much get into the platform every single day. It's showing me in the unit of credits, how many credits I'm consuming, and looking between the ratio between streaming and orders, you can definitely see I predominantly stream imagery in the platform. But I toggle to this transactions tab, you can see that today's May the 2nd. I'm in London, it's about 1:30, and that means that I can see in granular detail how much every single click is costing me. So we were just looking at Vivid Premium over Barcelona, and it cost me 0.015 credits, and so on and so forth. And the level of transparency has increased, and we're kind of getting even clearer. So we have this rate table, and this essentially becomes like our price list. And this can differ depending on which tier you're purchasing, whether that's 1 through 5. My internal account here is at tier 1. And it's very clearly telling me if I was to download Vivid Basic, every square kilometer would cost me 4 credits, for example. Whereas if I was streaming data, we're using a different unit of measurement, map views, but every map view consumed of Vivid standard 30 centimeter is going to cost me 0.138 credits. So that kind of is the crux of my demo. I think one of the other cool things to show you, and I'll just toggle over here, is with SecureWatch, our users found great value in looking at our user documentation, the autonomy to self-serve and answer questions on your own. So we have the same thing in MGP as well. So if I search, I'm going to go for archive ordering and search. Just wait for some return results. So here, we'll go for the first option, which is simply ordering archive imagery. You can see that when I scroll down, there's lots of useful screenshots, some tips and tricks. We have click-by-click guides on how to complete all of these processes. Another great example is exploit. If you weren't sure on kind of what exploit mode was or how to do it. Yep, we have some great documentation that's here to help you. And then lastly, we also have behind MGP is a brand new set of APIs. And with SecureWatch, you could typically only stream content via our APIs, whereas with MGP Pro, we are kind of pulling down the curtain and allowing customers to access our APIs directly. So we have a saying here that is, if you can do anything in the MGP Pro UI, you can do the same thing via the API. So you're not just constrained to streaming data, you can place archive orders, you can provision users through our admin API, you can task via our API, as well as discover via our Discover API. So that's a whole other can of worms, but I thought I would just mention it in passing. I think we're 36 minutes past, so I shall stop sharing and pass the baton back to Matthew for some Q&A, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Bhavini. That was a great demo. I think for anyone that hasn't worked with SecureWatch in the past or hasn't seen a demo, hopefully you can sort of understand the gravitas of what a platform like this offers, the ability to stream and download this amount of data. I mean, the infrastructure and architecture alone is quite impressive. So yeah, so we do have a couple good questions. And I think the first one I'll start with is to maybe best for Benjamin to answer. It's about demos. How is it possible for a user to demo the platform themselves, and sort of how does that process work?
Yeah, sure. So we have more options. So the first one is, of course, always to get in contact with us, with the sales managers of USI. And then we can give you either a live demo with our account via online, or you can request a demo account. So then we can set it up for you. We will give you a short introduction to it, and then you can play around with a certain amount of credits. Not the full range, of course, but then you can play around yourself and then decide if you want to purchase or not.
Yeah. Okay. And actually, I guess recalling to Bhavini's presentation, she sort of mentioned that was almost a crucial step in determining how many credits that you would need anyways. So maybe even better than just playing around with it is to actually demo using it like you would use it on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, so you can get an accurate estimate there. Let's see, a couple others. We have a question, Bhavini, maybe you can answer this. Because there's more than just the optical imagery, I believe, that's contained in MGP. I believe that there's SAR data as well. Are you able to say which SAR data sets are included or will be included?
That's a really good question. So we have our ongoing partnership with Umbra, and you can read about it in our blog posts and our press releases. And I believe there's a a plan to integrate Umbra data into MGP Pro, but that's something for possibly the end of this year, if not next year.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of the questions from our partners in the audience. And I guess on that topic, do you have any insights, timelines, anything to say about upcoming features, developments, what the horizon might look like?
Definitely. So we didn't really talk about the admin tool, but we're going to make a lot of improvements into the admin tool. So the goal there is to, within a department or an organization or a business, to give a single user the autonomy to provision other users, do simple things like password resets, adjust user preferences on a user by user level, and most importantly, to track usage in a very granular way. So when you make this purchase, you can keep an eye on how many credits you're consuming.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely in Q2 and Q3, we'll see a lot of enhancements to our admin tool. In terms of next steps and further developments, we are working really hard on object detection. Things like vehicles, aircrafts, and boats is definitely in the roadmap using AI ML on Maxar's data. And Legion, for those who have not seen the good news on LinkedIn, social media, we are awaiting the imminent launch of our next generation of Maxar constellation. And hopefully we should be seeing Legion data, touchwood, very soon in MGP Pro. So I think those are the top three for me.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I was it's good that you touched on that. Yeah, I think we're all excited. Hopefully everything goes well with weather and launch vehicles and everything, and in a few hours we can celebrate a successful launch. And so you see the capacity of Legion being a pretty significant impact on the platform then. I mean, of course, on sort of the overall capabilities of Maxar and in turn EUSI in this region. But yeah, any specific impacts on the platform that you see?
Yeah, definitely. I think in areas where we may have struggled with competition or poor weather, the addition of 2 other satellites is going to enhance our capacity, and specifically at an 8-band 30 centimeter resolution. It's going to be great. We're going to see a lot of imagery hopefully flowing into MGP Pro from Legion, and we even have a nice little tool in our UI that I didn't show off, but the ability to see footprints of when collects are being made around the globe, just so you can gauge our capacity and how much we're collecting, whether that be daily, weekly, monthly, that kind of thing.
Okay. This is a question I'll ask to both of you. Maybe you both have some insights on it. What are some ways that users can maximize their credit allotment? You know, are there any tips, tricks, advice that either of you might have?
So I can go ahead with my top feature. It's just this little symbol below, I think, the imagery part. And you can just, it's an eye, and you can just switch it off, and then you can zoom in as much as you want without streaming any images. So like Google Maps in the background. And then you can stream the images when you enable the eye. And before that, you zoom in directly on the location, which might be just a house. So you will only stream like the tiles for the house, and this will minimize the consumption in the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just to kind of add some color to what Benjamin is talking about is we definitely encourage the work smart and not hard ethos that we encourage in SecureWatch as well. Things like utilizing bookmarks, alerts, and monitors, so you're, as Benjamin alluded to, getting straight to where you need to go instead of using credits to pan and zoom is a great way. And also kind of using our APIs where you can define precisely via AOI, like a bounding box, I want to go directly here. You're just eliminating that process of panning, zooming, navigating where you need to go when you know where you need to go. It's not an investigation.
Okay. Yeah, good tips. So yeah, sort of not wasting so many resources on just the scrolling around looking for the perfect area, so, or your desired AOI. So the next question is a bit of a specific use case. Looks like we have somebody in the audience that is working over the ocean, and wanted to know if there are further parameters to filter results by, or even the ability to customize parameters. It looks like there's specific use case. They would want to sort of filter results by wind speed and sun glint to minimize noise. Now, I know this isn't something that I've personally seen in MGP Pro, but do you have any ideas or insights on how somebody could solve these issues?
So not so much wind speed, but for bathymetry applications, I definitely recommend the 8-band data that we can get from Worldview 2 and 3, as well as Legion in the near future, touch wood, for a successful launch. But one of the new parameters you can filter by when you're discovering our content is sun azimuth angle. So we're really conscious of how sun glint affects the ability to use our data. So filtering out imagery that might have glint on there could be, through process of elimination, kind of narrow down the content that is suitable for your application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was also wondering when reading the question if possibly using some of the APIs available, if somebody could integrate maybe with their own workflow and sort of cross-referencing, obviously with a different data set for the wind speed, because you're not bringing that out of MGP at all. But obviously, there's plenty of places that you could cross-reference that data set and maybe filter your results. And then, yeah, same for possibly taking the sun azimuth again through API and creating your own platform, your own workflow to also possibly filter by results that are least likely to have sun glint. There's always going to be, I think, some uncertainty there, even when you have the sun elevation and calculating sun glint. But I think in my mind, it seems like it would be doable. But otherwise, I guess another part for you, Benny, as far as if not within the platform itself, there's certainly options, right, for getting collections and minimizing sun glints. So.
Yeah, sure. We had several projects where we had to avoid sun glint. So you can then define the looking angle of the satellite as a user. So we will avoid then with our manual tasking approach the sun glint. We are also able to pause collections. So if you have a collection window of 1 month and you face a storm over your AOI, you can always say, hey, guys, please pause the collection. So then we will pause it. But coming to wind speed and wind directions, this is then up to the end user. They should tell us because we are not on site and do not have any insight. So we are not having a permanent video on this area. We can, of course, use webcams, but it's actually up to the user. Sun glint can be up to us, but also on Maxa's side, for that tasking, you can define the looking angle. It's all outside MGP Pro now, what we're talking about, but the images after collection will also be part of MGP Pro then in the end.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I guess to answer that user's question, yeah, it would be best to maybe research the possibility of using the API to achieve your results if you really want it to be within the Maxar geospatial platform. Otherwise, for example, some custom tasking options through EUSI if you're located in Europe would certainly be able to achieve your results. Let's see what others we might be able to answer here. Let's see. Just pick a couple out of here, see if I can make sense of this one. Credits. So let's see. This user's asking, is it possible to lock the usage of credits for certain users, or maybe some sort of warning? You're now in metered usage, or how can sort of setting barriers for users work, Bhavini?
So within the platform, we don't really shout when you're going to become metered and when you're entering the territory of being metered. Whereas in the admin tool, what we can do is we can introduce a daily cap. And this is a big ask for kind of account provisioning and account setup, is we may or may not have a few customers who have the student or the intern and they blow through a vast amount of data within a very short period of time by accident. So the way we kind of alleviate that situation is that you can set up a daily cap. So for example, if Matthew, Benjamin and myself were on an account and I felt like Benjamin was going to burn through all of our credits in one day, I could set him on a 50 credits a day cap. And that prevents him from burning through our allowance by accident. I'm sure Benjamin won't, he's a good guy.
All right, great. So it sounds like maybe Maxar got a lot of feedback from SecureWatch about usage, controlling usage, sort of the transparency and maybe some of the confusion of gigabytes. Maybe some people loved it. Maybe it was a bit confusing. Because it seems like that's sort of been a big focus, is alleviating any of the usage and credit versus gigabyte concerns. So
yeah, definitely. I think the overhaul and rebuild of our admin tool was definitely a big thing we focused on with building out this new version of SecureWatch, along with things like making our data more accessible. We have a vast amount of data at Maxar, but it could be a bit tricky picking through all the layers in SecureWatch, as well as kind of expanding the product availability. With SecureWatch, you were kind of constrained to pixels only, whereas as MGP grows into the future, it kind of becomes a one-stop shop of multiple data inputs of data and not just pixels.
Okay. Yeah, great. Well, I think that's all that we have for today. If there's anything else that either of you two would like to share, then please do. Otherwise, there are a few more comments and questions coming in on the chat box. We will stick around, at least myself and a couple backend monitors stick around and answer those within the chat box or provide these users some resources. We definitely won't let any of the questions go unanswered. Some of them just, yeah, I think are easier to answer via text rather than live. And yeah, so I really thank you both, Bhavini and Benjamin, for joining us today. Great presentations, great demo. I think we really learned a lot in the Q&A as well. And yeah, I think that's all we have for today.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And yeah, anyone that sticks around, feel free to keep asking your questions. Like I said, we will make sure that they all get answered for you one way or the other. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.